Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am happy your host, Barry Constantine.
And as always, I am the other half, Derek Ferguson.
How you doing today, Derek?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much. Getting ready for yet another snowpocalypse to hit New York area. We're going to get hit with snow tomorrow and Friday. And of course, I'm going to use this as an excuse to just stay home and watch movies, which is what I do every time it snows. So
yeah, we were talking about we got our every year Kagoshima gets like one day when there's like a good layer of snow on everything, and that day is today. So when I was taking out the garbage, I saw like just snow everywhere. Although and like we were talking about before we started recording, in Chicago where I'm from, it's no big deal, right? We deal with like 6 inches of snow daily. But here, you know, half an inch of snow like shuts down everything because they're just not used to it.
Yeah. And as you said before we started recording, I was telling you what was going on in Texas and some of the other southern states. And, you know, my prayers to all of the people in Texas because they are getting slammed down there. With this brutal cold and snow that they're not used to. So, you know, God bless them, and you know, my prayers are with you guys. Yeah. I got a lot of writer friends, you know, that are in Texas, you know, so as well as relatives. My wife has a cousin that lives in Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I got one buddy in Texas who posted something on Facebook saying that they've been out of power for like 2 days, and he had to start up his car to charge his phone, basically, so he could have it ready in an emergency.
Yeah. People are now. They say now people. Because they run out of wood for their fireplace, they're cutting up their furniture.
Holy shit!
To burn. That's how bad it. Yeah, that's how bad it's gotten. Yeah.
And it's all because Texas had to privatize the power grid, and then to save money, they decided not to winterize the pipes and everything.
And for all of you people out there who kept on saying, "Man, I can't wait till 2021 gets here." It's here. How do you like it so far?
Oh,
you know, like everybody, you know what, Barry, it was a funny thing. I was just looking at people, and people were acting like, okay, when they flipped that switch and the ball dropped, it was like they thought that 2020, everything was going to magically get better all at once with the changing of the year. I was like, how do you know it's not going to get worse?
Yeah, I was always kind of worried about it because everybody thought 2016 was the worst year ever, and then we had 2020, and so I'm just like, I don't know if we should. I'm pretty sure things could get worse.
Listen, it can always get worse.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I just didn't understand this magical thinking that people had that once we turned that corner, once we went into a new year, that all of a sudden things were going to. Well, we just got to put 2020 behind us.
Yeah, no, it's a lot more than that we got to do.
You know, and I couldn't wrap my head around that thinking. So, yeah, I mean, 2021 has its trials and tribulations. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Listen, we're still here.
Yes, we're still here. And watched. Did you watch the new WandaVision last week? Episode 6. Yeah.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I was sitting there with a big shit-eating grin on my face right there. Just seeing them in their original costumes.
That was great. Yeah, that was a real hoot. And the fact that they didn't go all out the costumes, like, you know, Vision is wearing yellow shorts with his.
Yeah, I mean, you know, no matter how janky the costumes were, it was still a hoot seeing them.
But I also love the explanations they had for him, right? Vision's like he's a Mexican wrestler, and Wanda's a Sokovian fortune teller.
Yeah, I mean, and she looked the closest to the comic book.
Oh, yeah.
She looked exactly like the comic books. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it was a Sokovian fortune teller. Yeah, it was, let's just say that it was an interesting episode in that, especially when it got to the end and we see that Wanda is increasing the size of, you know, her influence.
The hex, you know, as they call it.
Yeah, so, I mean, how far is this going to go before it's over? And they say that the last 3 episodes are going to be hour-long episodes.
Yes, yeah, so we're recording this on Wednesday for you, Thursday for me. So tomorrow is going to be Well, tomorrow for me, it's going to be the first of the hour-long episodes.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people whining and moaning and complaining about WandaVision, especially like the first couple of episodes. And the longer you watch it, the more you see that there is a definite plan behind this whole series that is playing out. And you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, now this is making more and more and more sense. More and more sense. Because at the beginning, and I don't understand people, they said, well, it didn't make any sense. Well, it wasn't supposed to make sense at the beginning.
It's like if you watch if you're watching a movie and you walk out after 10 minutes in the movie, of course the story's not going to make any sense because you're leaving right at the beginning of it.
Yeah. So I heard a lot of that. People saying, well, it didn't make any sense to me. So I did. Well, I don't understand. Again, like I had said in previously before, the premise of this show was very clearly laid out for people. So there was enough time for you, if you didn't understand the concept behind the sitcoms and everything, there was enough time for you to do your homework so that you could understand what was going on.
Well, the thing I don't get is a lot of these people are comic book fans. So they're used to serialized storytelling. They're used to a story, unfolding over the course of like several issues. And I don't understand why they can't now apply that same logic to a TV series, because that's exactly what it is. It's a comic book. It's a multi-part comic book story arc.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think that had a lot to do with it too. In that a lot of people, I hear a lot of complaining that people said, well, why can't they just, give us the whole thing at one time? Because now people, that's how, that's what they're used to. They want to binge watch everything at one time. And they're not used to this weekly, for me, like I said earlier in another episode, I like it myself because it gives me something to look forward to,
Yeah, I'm both frustrated and enjoying it because when it ends, I'm like, no, I want more. But then it is also nice to have that anticipation build over the week, and also to have like people have time to like dissect and really truly digest the episode.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. You actually have time to digest what digest and taking what you're watching instead of just going to the next one right away. And
right.
And some people miss that rush of being able to binge watch the whole thing, and then they get on the internet and spoil it for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen the whole thing. I know how it is. This is how it is. So believe it or not, well, I know you believe it, but some of you watching this may not believe it. But there's a lot of perverted people out there who get their jobs.
Yeah.
There are. So
I told the story, like the first Avengers movie, the Thanos reveal was spoiled for me because some asshole wanted to go in a comment section and just spoil it right out of nowhere.
Yeah. Small souls that have that have no compassion for their fellow man.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, me personally, I'm not spoilers don't bother me, but I do respect the fact that it does bother a lot of people. So, that's why I will not spoil stuff for you. But people tell me all the time, oh, you don't mind it being spoiled? Well, no, because most of the time, most of the stuff I watch anyway, I can pretty much tell how it's going to turn out anyhow. I've seen this stuff. I've been watching this stuff all my life. Believe me, and a lot of stuff that I watch in movies and TVs, about 40, 45 minutes into it, you can pretty much tell, okay, I see where this is going. It doesn't really bother me. And trailers. Don't let me get started with trailers. I don't believe that there's a trailer trailer for a movie I haven't seen in the past 15 years that hasn't spoiled the movie.
Well, I'll correct you on that. The Avengers Endgame trailer. Because that only took footage from like the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, watching this latest episode. So the big theory that everyone's got going around is that Mephisto is involved in this, and Pietro is really Mephisto. And they're citing things like, the references to like when he calls the kids demon spawn, and like how his hair is spiked up, like is almost as if it's horns and all that kind of stuff. And I'm starting to think that all the Mephisto Easter eggs are are just red herrings.
Red herring, yeah, me too.
Because it's starting to seem too obvious for it to be Mephisto.
Yeah. You know what really threw me for a loop though? When Vision brought Agnes back to her real personality.
Yeah.
And she wasn't Agatha Harkness.
Yeah.
I said, whoa. I said, okay, well, that's been taken out of the equation now because that was the main fan theory that everybody had.
Right.
She was Agatha Harkness. Then he did that thingy that he does, and he brought it back to herself, and it turns out that that's not her. Unless, of course, it's another personality she's got layered on that, but I'm not getting that deep. I'm just going with okay, she's not Agatha Harkness.
Well, did she say her name in that?
No, but
so it could be Agatha Harkness.
But she just acted like a regular ordinary. But wouldn't she revert back to being Agatha if she was, if Vision had snapped it back to her?
Yeah, but that's if we're thinking it's the Marvel version, the comics version of Agatha Harkness instead of an MCU reinvention. Like they did with like Justin Hammer or something like that.
Fair enough. I'll go with that.
Because she was dressed up as a witch, I noticed.
Yeah, she was. You're right. Exactly. That was another thing. She was dressed up like a witch. The thing with Pietro's hair, I didn't think it looked like horns. I just figured that was the closest that they could come to that weird thing that he had in the comic.
Yeah. That was the first thing I thought too.
Yeah, that was like the closest they could come to it. Because I don't know what that thing was supposed to be in the comic book.
But you know what I think it might be instead? Nightmare. Because Nightmare's supposed to be the villain in the second Doctor Strange movie, and WandaVision's supposed to lead into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So I'm leaning, I think it might more be, Nightmare might be a more logical choice in that instance.
Okay. I mean, whoever it is, it's definitely magic based.
Yeah.
Somebody's magic based. So so we're talking about Mephisto, we're talking about Nightmare, we're talking about, any one of a dozen different magical entities that Wanda has come into contact with in the comic books, but who haven't really shown up yet in the MCU, which has been mostly like super science until we got to Doctor Strange. Then we got Doctor Strange. Okay, now we got the magical element that's all coming in, which is like you said, we got WandaVision, which is definitely dealing with magic. Then we got Doctor Strange, which is going to, of course, be magic and the multiverse and everything like that. And we got the Spider-Man, which is also going to deal with the multiverse. So magic is going to play a very big part in this next phase of the MCU, I think, rather than the more
sci-fi type stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In the first, era, it was all heavily super science and stuff like that and very technological based. Seemed like they're going for a more magical.
Yeah, because they've also got, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I think that's the subtitle. And that their take on the Mandarin seems to be much more rooted in like magic and mysticism than it does in sci-fi.
Exactly. So,
or at the very least, science posing as magic, because that's kind of what the Mandarin shtick always was, right? Because he was using alien technology, but it was always kind of portrayed as like almost like a mystic type of thing.
Well, even Doctor Strange, it's been a while since I saw the movie, folks. If I got this wrong, excuse me. But it's like I seem to recall a conversation between Doctor Strange and Wong is saying to him, well, it's magic, but it's just another way of tapping into the same energies that science does. We just do it in a different way. So that's always been like the out that magic has had. Okay, you call it science, we call it magic, but it's tapping into the same primal energies of the universe, just in different ways to accomplish different ends.
Right. Well, like if you think back to Thor, his conversation with Jane Foster, when he says, your ancestors call it magic, you call it science, but I come from a place where they're one and the same.
Right, exactly. And we saw in the Thor movies that they were a technologically advanced,
Right.
race. So yeah, so listen. I've said before, I say it again. I'm perfectly content. I'm not like a lot of people.
Mhm.
I'm not second guessing them. I'm not trying to get ahead of them and figure out what they're doing. I am perfectly content with the direction that the MCU is going with their TV series
Yeah.
so far. WandaVision. If the rest of them are of the same quality as this, I'm on board.
Same here. Same here. So anyway, there's some interesting news that came out, which I'm really excited about. We're getting a new pair of comic books coming out. One of them is called Batman 89. The other one's called Superman 78, which we're getting comic books. One comic book series picking up after Batman Returns, and the other one picking up after either Superman or Superman 2, because it's not really made clear, but because all they do is they say that it's in specifying Richard Donner's Superman. So
I saw where you posted somewhere on Facebook, gave me a good laugh. Thank you. Where you just said, "Here, just keep my fucking wallet."
yeah, I mean, come on, yeah. Because I spend so much of my money on Comixology, and it's just like when I saw that, I'm just like, just fucking take the damn thing already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just give them the credit card and say,
yeah. Just link it directly in my bank account and just keep sending me the comics.
Exactly. What's the point? What's the point?
But yeah, I'm so psyched about this because you remember a few years ago there was an artist and a writer and artist, they'd made a pitch to DC about a Batman 89 series, and DC passed on it. And then they announced this. First thing I checked is who's the art team, and it looks like the same artist is going to be is doing this one, so that's good. And it looks really cool so far. Like he posted up some of his character designs and stuff like that online. So it looks like there's going to be things like they're going to be bringing back the Michelle Pfeiffer version of Catwoman. We're probably going to see Billy D. Williams version of Two-Face. And they mentioned a new Robin, so that'll probably be like the Marlon Wayans version of Robin that we almost saw in Batman Returns. So. It's going to be, I'm sorry?
Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale, yeah, we could see Vicky Vale come back as well. Yeah. And one of the sketches, they had like a Joker gang too. So could see, because I remember way back when they were still going to be doing a 5th Batman movie that Clooney was supposed to return in and Joel Schumacher was supposed to return in. The villain was going to be Harley Quinn in that one, but she wasn't going to be a Joker's love interest. Instead, she was going to be the Joker's daughter.
Oh, okay.
So that's something that could potentially happen as well if they want to go back to that, even though that technically wasn't Burton, but still.
If there is one flaw, one mistake that they made, Tim Burton made with that Batman, but he figured that was the only Batman movie he was going to make. He was going to make another. Is when he killed off the Joker.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have did that. But
yeah.
I said he thought that was the only movie he was going to make. So
right, and that was also the thing at the time with action movies is you kill off the bad guy, dies at the end.
Yeah, but it don't work. But it doesn't. Well, listen, I love Batman too much to argue against it. Moving right along.
Yeah, so Batman 89, Superman 78. I'm really looking forward to and Batman 89, the Batman screenwriter Sam Hamm is going to be writing it.
Excuse me. I always wonder what happened to him.
He had done some comic book work here and there, I think. And then the artist is Joe. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Keenans. And so they're going to be. He's also done Dial H for Hero. And then for Superman, it's going to be Rob Venditti, who's written Hawkman, and Wilfredo Torres, who was the artist on Batman 66.
Okay.
Now here's the thing. I don't know. This is why I'm not sure where they're picking up, because they say Lois Lane doesn't yet know Clark Kent is secretly Superman. Now that could easily be taking place after Lester's Superman 2 with the amnesia kiss, or it could be taking place after Donner's cut of Superman 2, where they reused the flying through time thing, or some.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I'll be interested to see. The way I would do it is I would start the series when he drops Lois off at her apartment,
Mhm.
and so kind of like retell the ending of Donner's Superman 2, except cut before he flies back and tries to reverse time. Because I thought that was actually a good ending when he leaves her on the apartment there and just flies off, and she has this kind of like melancholy comment about it.
Mhm.
And I thought that was actually a really good ending for it.
Okay. Okay.
But obviously that's not what they're going to do. But still, I'm really looking forward to this. The artwork looks amazing. It very much feels like you're back in those worlds.
Yeah, I saw some of the artwork for Batman, and I said, oh, okay, they know what they're doing. I have confidence in them. They know what they're doing with this. Okay, I didn't see any of the Superman one.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. I think it's just the cover for the Superman one, because
it's just a tease, but
right,
no, it's enough to give you confidence that
yes,
when you can look at it and you can recognizably say, okay, that's not exactly Christopher Reeve, but because the artist who does the Batman, he gets Michael Keaton more than the guy that does Superman gets Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
But give him time. Give him time. He'll grow into it.
Well, you know what's interesting too is I wonder if we could see like a crossover between these two in some way as well. Because there have been tons of memes over the years, like well, imagine if there was like a Justice League back in the day with like the Christopher Reeve Superman and the Michael Keaton Batman and the Linda Carter Wonder Woman and the what's his name from the Flash?
John Wesley Shipp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a chance we could see something like that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it could even start a whole thing where they could do like a whole line of comic books, based on the movie character, and just follow up on and have more stories set in those universes.
Yeah, well, that's what they did with Wonder Woman 77 and Batman 66, which were both very well received. So
because I believe they even did one where Wonder Woman teams up with the Bionic Woman.
I think so. Yeah, they did.
And Charlie's Angels, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Batman 66, they teamed up with the British Avengers as well.
The British Avengers, yeah. John Steed and Mrs. Peel. They did that.
I think they did a few other crossovers as well. They may have done a Green Hornet one as well. I know they did one of the TV shows.
Well, they had to do Green Hornet. Mm-hmm. They had to do Green Hornet.
Yeah. So yeah, this looks. I'm totally psyched about this. I've been ever since that Batman 89 project was revealed, and it was also revealed that DC passed on it. I was so pissed off, and like every time I see someone talking about the Batman movie, the 89 movies, I'm just like, man, I wish we could have gotten that comic book, because there was so much things that we could even. And we talked about the Burton Batman movies, and yeah, they've got their issues, but like those were my first introduction to superhero. Basically, was the Superman and the Batman movies back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason why people still talk about those movies, whereas you don't hear people talk so much about Man of Steel.
Right.
Or you don't even hear people talk so much about Christopher Nolan Batman movies anymore. But people still talking about the Burton movies, and they're still talking about the Donner movies. There is a reason for that.
Well, I think part of that is just the age that comes with it, because I remember when the Nolan movies were coming out, nobody wanted to talk about the Burton movies. So I think there is that nostalgia fact, because the people like me who we grew up with the Donner and the Superman movies, now we're in our 30s, we're in our 40s, so we're looking back at that time. So it might be the same thing with if you go like 10, 20 years from now, you'll see people doing the same thing about the Nolan movies.
Okay, here's why I don't think that's going to happen, because the Nolan movies are too rooted in a specific time and place.
Okay.
You look at Tim Burton, okay, his Batman movies. You look at Richard Donner, even though it's New York standing in for Metropolis, it's still not definite as to exactly what time or place this is happening. Because they start off first in the 1930s with the curtain opening up and everything like that, and then we go into Krypton, then we go. But there's never a specific year mentioned. and people are dressed in various different styles of dress. So, and it's the same thing with the Tim Burton. It could be the 1940s. It could even be the 1950s and 1960s. There's a timelessness, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, to these movies that allow them to transcend, and like every different generation can pick up on it. Whereas you have like, well, first of all, Man of Steel is just too damn depressing.
Yeah.
But like the Christopher Nolan movies, when I look at those movies, I don't see Gotham City. I see Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I see Chicago. It's too real.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's too real.
I'll agree with you on the Burton movies. Those definitely feel like they're set in a fantasy world, right? Because it's the clothing styles, the architecture, the different styles of cars. It definitely does have a timeless feel to it. Superman, I feel, is a little bit more rooted in the late 70s New York. I think it's a little bit more obvious that you're looking at a real place.
Okay.
But I would definitely agree with the Burton movies, and you're right. Yeah, the Nolan movies definitely feel like they're in a specific time and place as well.
Yeah. They're too rooted. Although, like you said, time may very well prove me wrong, because, like you said, we always go through these cycles where movies get rediscovered. Right. Like every, like 10, 20 years,
Yeah.
revisit these movies and say, oh, this is a masterpiece. What happened? Nobody saw it, Well, yeah, a lot of people saw it,
Right. Well, especially with streaming services and everything, right? It's a lot easier to rediscover those things.
I mean, which is the good thing about streaming services now, because nothing is lost.
Yeah.
We can see it. We can see everything.
Yeah. All right. Some other movie news we got before we jump in. So we had two really big pieces of news, two really big controversies over the past week. One is the Joss Whedon stuff. It does not look like it's dying down. It looks like it's heating up. A lot of other people have come out. David Boreanaz came out in support of Charisma Carpenter. Marty Noxon, who's one of the writers on Buffy, she came out in support. And Anthony Stewart Head said that he was absolutely gutted when he heard about this, because he said he had no idea this was going on, but he completely supports them and believes them. Eliza Dushku, who played Faith, she also came out in support of it. Amy Acker, who was Fred and Illyria on Angel, she said that her experience was good and professional, and she didn't encounter any of this, but that she totally believes everybody else who says that they did experience this. But the most shocking one was Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
She elaborated on her initial statement, and she said that there was a rule on the set of Buffy that Whedon could not be alone in a room with her. And she wouldn't say any more than that, but that is...
Well, she doesn't have to.
Yeah, that is disturbing.
Listen, that says it all. Once you tell me that you, as an underage, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, but you're underage and you're not allowed to be alone with the guy who created the show that you're in and everything like that. Yeah, you need to say nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. I got it.
Yeah. So, this is not dying down. Whedon still hasn't responded. I don't know if he ever will respond, because when we had since we've had some people try to respond to these allegations, they just ended up making it worse.
Well, that's why he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And and folks, before you jump on me, I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that there is no upside to him, and he understands there's no upside at this point to him responding.
Yeah.
Because now he responds, they come back with more stuff. They come back, and in our current climate, this society that we have now, there's a good chance, there's an excellent chance it'll go away if he just stays quiet and doesn't respond to it. And what will happen is that the media will find something else to latch on to.
Mm-hmm.
And by this time next month, it could be forgotten. I mean,
Mm.
don't get me wrong. I hope it's not.
Mhm.
I hope it's not, but I'm just saying, given the culture that we live in and the climate that we live in, you and I have seen plenty of stories like this that was a big thing for about a week or two and everything like that. And then, like 2-3 weeks later, people say, huh, what?
Yeah,
What happened?
yeah. I don't know. I feel like this feels kind of more like a Kevin Spacey type thing because, like, now Kevin Spacey, he's not working anymore. So,
No.
and so this feels like more like one of those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we'll see. I could be wrong, but I think it might the ramifications. Like the media may not be talking about it, but I think the ramifications for Whedon especially will last longer, and I think people are going to remember this, especially because of how influential Buffy is and how gutted so many Buffy fans feel right now by this. So I think those memories are not going to go away anytime soon.
I mean, first of all, let me say one thing, that I never trusted the cat anyway, because anybody that works that hard at presenting himself as being a champion of feminism, and yo, bro, you're working too hard at it, and that's how he always came across to me. Yes, the man's incredibly imaginative and all that other stuff, and talented and stuff like that, but there were certain aspects of his work in regards to women that I kind of looked at and I said, remember the episode of Buffy where he had to do nothing but screw her boyfriend all episode long?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of, And
well, also when you look at season 6, when the villains were the trio who were like these really pervy, rapist guys.
Yeah. I mean, we say this now, and we look at it and everything, but I've always have been of the opinion that if you look at the work of any artist, you will see clues as to their behavior when Woody Allen made Manhattan. I said, didn't y'all folks honestly, y'all didn't think he honestly, felt that way, that it was okay for a 50-year-old man to have a relationship with a 17-year-old girl? If he didn't think it wasn't all right, he wouldn't have put it in his movie.
Yeah, and you look back at Buffy, Xander especially is such a cringy character.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's just such a terrible character. And so when they announced they were going to do the Buffy reboot comic, Boom Studios, my first thought is like, what are they going to do with Xander? How are they going to handle?
Remember when they tried to toughen him up?
Oh yeah.
When he lost the eye and everything like that, and they tried to toughen him up and everything like that.
But yeah, Xander always felt like a stand-in for Whedon.
Yeah.
And he was just such a creepy character.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
I mean, if you look at it, there was always clues in it, but people didn't see it because they were just enjoying the show.
Right. Well, I mean, it was groundbreaking for the time. So in retrospect, it's a lot easier to see that stuff.
Yeah. Well, hindsight, 2020 vision, of course. Right. Now, of course, we're all saying, "Oh yeah, we saw it all the time." Oh yeah.
No, people didn't see it at the time. I know that.
No, but I mean, it's. I don't know. I just, again, this is a situation where, and I know like a lot of Buffy fans, and they're heartbroken over it and everything like that. And they're saying, well, this means I can't ever watch Buffy anymore. I said, why not? Why can't you watch Buffy? A lot of other people, the people that are coming forward now, they spent years out of their life doing this work.
Right.
And their work should not be discounted because of this one man. It shouldn't, if you enjoyed watching those characters and watching those actors and those performances, go ahead and continue to watch. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand this mentality that people say, well, it's ruined for me now that I know. Well, he's a human being like everybody else, I mean, it's an unfortunate reality that a lot of the art that is made that we enjoy, whether in TV, movies, comic books, music, whatever, a lot of that art was created by some pretty shitty people.
Yeah, you gotta. I think a big thing is.
I mean, let's be honest.
You gotta kind of weigh it. It's really a personal thing. You gotta weigh like,
Yeah.
How much does your distaste for this person outweigh your enjoyment of the art? And you really gotta, and that's really got to be like a something that's going to come down to each individual person. Like for me,
which is what I mean, which is what I always say. I mean, people then want to make out like you're a horrible person,
right?
Because you can still listen to James Brown, even though James Brown was a wife beater and everything like that. Well, how can you listen to his music? Well, I've been listening to his music ever since I was 10 years old.
Plus, James Brown is also, he's dead, isn't he?
I mean,
that's another thing too.
Yeah, exactly. Me not listening to James Brown music is not going to affect any other thing except as a personal choice for me. Right. It may make me feel better, but that's about it. But I digress. You hit the nail on the head. It comes down to it's a personal choice.
Yeah. Like
everybody has to make that personal choice,
right,
for themselves, and they should not be ostracized because of that choice.
Yeah, like Bob Kane, perfect example. The guy was a total asshole. He was a total bastard. He treated, cheated people out of rights, stole people's artwork, but nobody's going to stop reading Batman.
Bingo.
I mean, there are certain creators I won't read their Batman stuff anymore, because they're like Chuck Dixon's a perfect example. When you start endorsing Nazi conspiracy theories, that's when I stop buying your books. But when it comes to Whedon, I think the character of Buffy has grown beyond him, and he's not doing any of this. If Whedon came back and he did a Buffy comic, I wouldn't buy it. But if Buffy comics still came out, I would buy them. That's kind of what I'm going with here.
Yeah, I mean, Batman, like you said, has grown beyond Bob Kane.
Yeah,
now, and I think that in that same way, Buffy has probably already grown beyond Joss Whedon. I think that if there's ever like a reboot, anything like that, his name will not be attached to it other than created by Joss Whedon. And that's it. But he won't be writing any scripts, or he won't be a showrunner or anything like that.
Or they just may pull Alan Moore and just keep his name off it completely.
There you go.
I mean, that may be something they have to, because that was Alan Moore's choice. So I'm not sure if they'd be able to get away with that or not, but I could definitely see that happening.
And I'm pretty sure that Joss Whedon says, listen, as long as you keep on sending me checks, I don't give a shit. Probably, yeah.
Now, the other big controversy was about Gina Carano being fired from Lucasfilm. And here's the thing I don't get. Like, everybody's saying oh, this is this. No, it's not. Like, if you work in McDonald's and you greet every person who comes to that counter with, good morning, motherfucker. Can I take your fucking order, you fat piece of shit? You're going to be fired before lunchtime.
And that's free speech.
Yeah.
That's free speech. You can call the customers, good morning, motherfucker. You can say that. But when you get fired, because at the time you said that, you were wearing McDonald's uniform.
Right.
You were standing behind McDonald's counter. And as far as that customer is concerned, you are a representative of the company.
Right.
Which you are. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a manager or if you're, flipping burgers or anything like that. When you punch in that clock and you put on that uniform, you're a representative of the company.
Yeah. And Gina Carano, this is not like it came out of nowhere. This is building for months and months and months. And she was warned.
She was warned. Yeah. She was taken in the office and she was saying, listen, you got to tone that shit down.
Yeah. And it's Disney, right? Fuck around and find out. She fucked around and she found out.
Listen, you know what? There is a long line of people that were far more talented than her. And I say that as a fan of hers. I like Gina Carano. That she made an excellent action movie called Haywire. I love that. Loved her on The Mandalorian. But there's a lot of other people more talented than her that live to regret fucking around with the mouse.
Yeah.
Okay. You just don't mess with the mouse. You don't. And especially when you were taken in the office, and they told her, they said, well, listen, you believe whatever you want to believe, but while you're working for us, you have to tone that down. And supposedly they gave her a statement, said, listen, we'd like you to read this or whatever like that. And she decided to put principal over paycheck.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, well, Ms. Carano, your services are no longer needed. Goodbye.
Although, funny thing about you mentioned her in Haywire. Do you know her voice? Because her acting was so terrible in that movie, they had to overdub her voice.
Oh yeah. I mean, they hired her strictly because of like her fighting ability.
Yeah.
Which and also she had like a screen presence.
Yeah, yeah.
She does.
She did. That was, that's basically what she did in Deadpool, right? She was mostly there because of her fighting skills and because she had presence in that movie.
Yeah, because she didn't have a lot of dialogue.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, yeah, and again, people are so quick to say censorship and inhibiting her freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't do that. She's an employee of the company. And I'm pretty sure that in that contract, which is probably yay thick, somewhere in that contract that her agent or her business manager, whoever represents her lawyer, read in, is some kind of morals kind of clause in there somewhere, or something that says, well, if you say something that violates our policy against hate speech or something like that, we can fire you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she signed something to that.
Oh, yeah. And after they warned her about it, I'm sure she was probably given something to sign. Like, acknowledge that you understand what was said at this meeting.
And understand, see, me, first of all, folks, y'all can't go by me, because I'm like this. If you take somebody's money, you have a certain obligation to that person.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know people. Oh no, they don't tell me what to do. Well, yeah, you can when you're on their time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even when you're on your time, you still have to watch what you say and what you do if you want to continue working for them. Yeah. I don't understand why this is such a hard concept to understand.
No, this has been happening in workplaces for years now, and people have never been surprised by it. Like me as a teacher, there's certain things I got to be careful of. I can't, if I went out and, I can't go out and get ridiculously drunk and start pissing on public buildings. Like I'd lose my job, and rightly so.
Yeah. Thank you. You'll get fired.
Yeah.
I don't understand why this is such a hard concept. Why they felt that, she was done wrong. No, she was not done wrong. She is an employee of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Did something that made them look bad, compromised them. She was called in. She was asked to listen. Could you please not do this? Could you, you can say what you want, but you got to tone this down. You got to tone that down. She chose to look at it like they can't tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. Well, your services are no longer required.
She thought she was so important to the show and to the Rangers of the New Republic series they were doing, and she thought she couldn't be replaced. She thought wrong. Please. And they're already talking about, they're saying that they might recast the character. So obviously she's not irreplaceable.
Which they should just recast the character. That's what they use. And okay, there's another thing that boggles my mind when people, talk about, well, only so-and-so could play that character. No, they can't. It used to be done all the time.
Yes.
In Hollywood, that when an actor, Maverick, when James Garner, when he walked off the show and he held out for more money. What they did, they got Jack Kelly and brought him on as his brother, and they kept filming the show.
Yeah.
Nobody is irreplaceable.
Well, look, they cast even recently. We as we talked about with when we talked about the first Iron Man movie, they recast Rhodey,
and didn't miss a step.
Yeah. Now one more thing, and then we can get into the movie. Is it looks like there's a John Constantine HBO Max series in the works, and this I don't understand why they're doing this. They're not going to bring back Matt Ryan. Instead, as the initial report suggests, the producers are looking for a BIPOC actor in his 20s to play the role. And the grid reportedly lists Rogue One and Venom star Riz Ahmed as someone the production is interested in. And I'm just like, I don't know why they're doing this, because Matt Ryan is perfect as John Constantine. He still likes playing the role, obviously. And when DC tried to do a younger version of John Constantine in the comics after the New 52, and they had as like a guy in this. It didn't work. Like, fans did not respond to it at all. So I'm like, why are you messing with something that is already has a proven track record?
And especially considering that the actor has such a loyal fan base. Matter of fact, he has such a loyal fan base, they had to bring him into the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
Remember when he had his show on NBC?
Oh yeah,
that was on there that ran for just and then got canceled. Then what did they do? They brought, because everybody was saying, "Oh man, this guy really."
They even brought him into the animated stuff because he was so connected to that character that they're like, "Well, we're not going to recast someone else as him in the animated stuff."
And for those of you out there who are watching this, you know my feelings on race switching characters for seemingly no good reason at all. And to me, this is another example. Yes, I said it. It's just, so what? Yeah. I mean, there's no reason. In principle, I just don't see a reason for it. I don't see a reason for it except the fact that you want to seem like you're trendy and you're hip and you're going, see how cool we are. Now John Constantine, he's a person of color now. Why?
Yeah, it just, the whole thing just seems like I just don't understand why they do this when they've got a perfectly good John Constantine. The actor loves playing the character, and they've got the perfect venue to do him justice in HBO Max.
You know what? I probably wouldn't care one way or another if, like you said, we hadn't already got Matt Ryan.
Right.
Let's just say that we're in an alternate world for a minute where Matt Ryan never played John Constantine. So they bring it in the character. Dude, the only other person that's played him is Keanu Reeves.
Right.
If they were bringing him in as a person of color now, okay, fine. Maybe they want to go go in a different direction and go in another. Cool.
Or if we're talking in if Matt Ryan didn't want to play the role anymore, or if we're talking like in the future when he can't play the role anymore, I'd understand it then too. But when you've got the guy, he's perfect. He's the perfect age. He's the perfect look. He's the perfect actor to play this character. He loves playing the character. I don't know why you would do this. It just seems so stupid.
And as a matter of fact, he could play John Constantine for the next 40 years if he wanted to. Because like you say, he's the right age.
Yeah.
He could age into the character. So we could have old John Constantine, 40 years from now. Who knows? Again, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't want to play the character anymore. Me, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
Because everything I've read that he said so far indicates to me that he says that he would be happy playing John Constantine for the rest of his life.
Yeah. And he's even been holding out hope for like when there's been talking, he's like, well, maybe there's a chance we could get, our show could come back on HBO Max, something like this. And then they pulled this. I mean, it's a disservice to all the work he's put into the character. It's a disservice to the fans. And I just don't know. I don't think Warner Brothers really thought this through. And I think they're probably going to get some backlash from this, and they're probably going to pull back on it. At least that's what I hope.
You know what? I hope so too. Because, Matt Ryan, I believe he should be rewarded for sticking with this character and investing so much of himself in this character.
Yes.
I really do.
Yeah.
So I hope that they, somebody wakes up and changes their mind.
Yeah, same here. All right. So I think we've talked on a lot of stuff now, but let's move into our final movie for the Black Superhero Month, and that is my pick, which is Blade 2 from 2002, which was, without a doubt, the best of the Blade movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put myself out on a limb here. I want to say this. This is actually the only Blade movie you have to watch.
No, yeah, I'd agree with that too. Like, because they give you everything you need to know about the backstory between him and Whistler right in the opening credits. So you don't really need any more of it than that.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you can watch the other two movies.
Right. I mean, the first Blade movie is good, but it has not aged well. Like those special effects in that first Blade movie really show their age.
And it's not the perfect blend of horror, science fiction, martial arts that this one is.
Yes.
There's a very short list I have of movies that I would consider to be perfect action movies. Hard Boiled, John Woo, The Killer.
Yes.
The first Die Hard. Commando, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Enter the Dragon. Well, Blade 2 is in that class. It is, I watched it last night and I would say to myself, damn, this is like damn near a perfect action movie from start to finish.
And one of the things this one has that the other ones don't is it, like we were talking about with Batman 89 earlier, it does have a more timeless feel than those other movies. The first Blade movie is really dated because of the special effects. The third one is really dated because of the whole iPod thing, where she's like listening to her, which is just like the worst product placement I've ever seen. Who goes into a fight listening to with their ears covered up so they can't hear anything.
Thank you. It was, and also, okay, I love spy movies that are set in Europe because they seem like they're more serious than ones that are set in America. They're set in cities like Budapest and Prague and Paris, and for some reason they seem to have a little bit more gravitas to it. This one has got that same kind of gravitas because it's set in like these European cities that almost look medieval in a way, which I really liked. I like the look, but then again, it's directed by Guillermo Del Toro, who is such a phenomenally gifted visual director. This movie's visuals are fantastic. They're fantastic. Visually, it's a fantastic looking movie.
There was also, so here's one of the things that Del Toro did is when he got the job for this, what he did is he got like a whole bunch of tapes from the first Blade movie, and he watched every single one of the dailies. He went through every single one of those tapes and dissected everything Stephen Norrington did so that he truly understood this is how Norrington did this is how he did that, and then he took all that and he added his own spin to it. So like he really had a lot of reverence for what came before. He's not one of these directors who comes in and says like, fuck the other guy, I'm doing my own thing. He paid respect to it and added his own spin to it, which is what you should be doing to it.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, this movie is like an insane mashup of like, it's like a Hammer horror movie.
Yeah.
In a way. Every time I watch it, I'm more and more reminded. I say, yeah, okay, Guillermo Del Toro. And if you've ever seen one of his later movies called Crimson Peak, watch that movie. That movie, along with Sleepy Hollow, is like the best Hammer horror movies Hammer never made. But this one, Blade 2, also reminds me a lot. There's a lot of Hammer touches that I see in it, especially with the gore and the violence and everything like that. Which is one of the great things about this movie is that it's a grisly, nasty vampire movie, and it's not ashamed to be a grisly, nasty vampire.
Right. And what's interesting too is I didn't realize this, but I'm just looking at now. But Thomas Kretschmann plays Damaskinos, the villain in this movie, and they do him up so. He also played Baron von Strucker in in Age of Ultron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I knew the name was familiar.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the cast list. I'm like, that name sounds really familiar. I looked him up and like, oh yeah, he played Baron Strucker.
Yeah.
And it's just like the makeup job they do on him is unbelievable in this movie.
Oh, he's unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And Norman Reedus is in this one.
Norman Reedus. This was pre-Walking Dead Norman Reedus.
Yeah, this is like one of his early roles.
This was back when this came out. He was only really known for Boondock Saints.
Yeah. And he's good.
Oh, I like him in this movie. He's a lot of fun in this movie, and I like
he's nice and sleazy.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny watching it. Watching it again now that you know that he's the guy who betrays Blade in the end, and watching it again, you can see the hints. Like he's always trying to convince Blade that hey, something's off with Whistler, right? He's always trying to put him on Whistler. And then like when when Whistler leaves his post and he goes like, "Hey, he left his post. You know, he ran off and we don't know what happened to him." And then you see other things like when the blood pack is kind of like bullying Scud and Blade joins in, like when they're doing the autopsy, and they're like, you know, Scud, do that, and he's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, Blade, come on, and then Blade just calls him a sissy.
Mm-hmm.
And he also tells Whistler that line, you know, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize this at first, but then he stepped out of frame, and you see Norman Reedus is there.
Right. Yeah.
So
which is the tip off that pays off later on when when Blade, you know, reveals that he knew all along.
Yeah. And all this time, you think, like, when he gives that, the first time you watch this movie, you think he's given that line to Whistler as a warning.
Right.
But really, he's kind of cluing him in on something.
Yeah.
And then at the end,
mm-hmm.
and that great scene when, you know, Scud thinks he's all badass. He's like, "Oh, I had you tricked the whole time, blah blah blah." And Blade's like,
yeah,
"Motherfucker, I knew you were turned the whole time." And just blows the ass one up.
It just blows his ass away. But it also, that's a great bit that's in there because Blade is not just a mindless vampire killing machine. He thinks very strategically. He just doesn't come across that way.
Yeah. Well, that's what I liked about this movie compared to the first and the third ones, is it does show him as being more strategic.
Exactly. That's why I like this movie. That, you know, he's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking, he's looking, he's observing, he's processing all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so even when we think that, you know, he doesn't know what's going on, or, you know, maybe he knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. He's just biding his time until they reveal themselves.
Yes.
And then he can say, "Oh, well, this is where you slipped up because I knew you were doing this shit all along, and here you go." And then oh shit.
But in the first and third movies, they don't have that at all with the character. Like in this first one, he's in both those ones, he is basically like a mindless vampire killer.
He is, which is why I like this one. Like I said, this one, you know, out of all three, if somebody was going to tell me, you know, okay, well, which one should I actually watch? I'd give him this one before I give him the first one. I said, go ahead, just watch this one.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go back and watch you know, which is the order I think they should be watched in. Watch Blade 2, then watch Blade, and then watch Blade 3.
No, I'd say don't watch Blade 3.
You know what? I figured this way. If you watch the first two, then, you know, why not go ahead and watch the third one?
But yeah,
But again, I stress it is not necessary.
Mm-hmm. Well, something else that this movie did that I think the first and the third one also dropped the ball on is the science fiction angle, right? Because the whole David Goyer, when he was writing the script, the whole concept, he's like, you know, we're approaching vampires as a science fiction concept, not as a fantasy concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then in the first movie, you've got this whole shit with the blood god and these ancient prophecies, which completely undermined the sci-fi angle.
Yeah.
And then the third one, you've got Dracula coming back to life. And like, you know, again, it's like this stuff dealing with prophecy and all that. And both of those, they completely undermine the whole idea of making vampires a sci-fi concept. This one, it sticks with that concept from beginning to end.
And it works.
It works, yeah.
And it works because halfway through the movie, you buy vampires as being like this other offshoot of humanity.
Yes.
Which, and I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to get this in here. I also like how in this movie, we stick with the vampire world and the vampire culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't know what's going on in the human world. And matter of fact, there's only two truly human characters that's in the movie.
Right.
It's Scud and the
Whistler.
guy with glasses that works for.
Oh, yeah, true. Because, I guess because Whistler was changed back, so you can make an argument for that. Yeah.
Well, we'll throw Whistler in there. But, I mean, we don't have a ton. My point being is that we don't have a ton of human characters running around.
Right.
These vampire characters in a vampire world and the vampire culture, and that's what we're dealing with. And when we stick with that, solid, you know.
And Del Toro does a good job of letting the vampires have their own personalities. Because in the other movies, they don't really have a whole lot of personalities, right? It's just you've got the bad guy who's usually some kind of combination of charisma is like a charismatic evil character, right? You had Stephen Dorff in the first Blade movie, and then you had Parker Posey in the third one, and then he's got the wisecracking evil henchman, and that's it, right? They don't really have any personalities beyond that. In this one, the characters have distinct personalities. Like I was surprised at how much, for example, I like the character of Assad.
Yeah. He's matter of fact, you know what? I could have went with a whole prequel spin-off movie about those characters.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing as I was watching. I'm like, you know what? Forget the Night Stalkers from Blade Trinity, because outside of Ryan Reynolds, they were just basically, there was nothing interesting about them whatsoever. But I could have watched a whole spin-off about the Blood Pack.
Oh, without a doubt. Especially, I mean, because we really didn't get to know a lot of them as much as I would have liked to.
Right.
You got Donnie Yen in there, for God's sake, and he really didn't have a lot to do. I liked what was that guy's name? The big guy that got turned Lighthammer.
His
girlfriend. Yeah, Priest. I mean, these were all visually, they were outstanding characters, which of course Del Toro, he gave them all their distinctive visual look. And when you see them together in a group when Blade meets them for the first time, it looks like a panel out of a comic book.
It does, yeah.
The way that they're grouped together, and of course, Ron Perlman.
Yes.
Talking shit from start to finish.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I love that shot when Blade is introduced to him in the first scene, because I'm looking at it and I paused it and I said, yeah, that looks exactly like a panel from a comic.
Well, the nice thing too they do that the other movies did is they give each character has their own distinctive look. So like you're not going to mistake any of these characters for any of the others.
Oh no.
And also just a quick comment about Donnie Yen's costume that he wears as a snowman is, if you notice on the armor, he's got like this kind of cross symbol on the armor. And I didn't realize this until I watched it just last night, but that's the symbol of Kagoshima, where I live here in Japan.
Really?
Yeah, and like Donnie Yen's a Chinese actor, but he's dressed in samurai armor. And so the thing is, now it could just be coincidence, I don't know, but the way I like things is because Kagoshima was the last stand of the samurai in Japan. So that seeing that symbol on it makes me think like he's got a backstory.
That gives
like one of those samurai.
Yeah, that gives it now a whole another interesting subtext to the character. Yeah. That fascinating. I like that.
And I thought it was just me at first. Like I was just seeing things that weren't there. But I asked my wife, and she's from Kagoshima, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it is." Like she didn't even say like, it's a little bit off. And she's like, "No, that's the symbol."
No, that's the symbol. Yeah. So okay, so now we know that's not by accident.
Yeah.
Somebody put it there deliberately and put it there for a reason.
Yeah. Now it could just be they just found it somewhere when they were doing research on samurai designs and they thought it looked cool, right? They may not, but I that's just the backstory I chose to give them.
I prefer to think that somebody put it on there for,
So you mentioned Ron Perlman. I want to talk a little bit more about him because he's just. Because like I had seen Beauty and the Beast when I was a kid, right? But didn't really have a whole it's very vague memories of watching it like on Saturday afternoon or something like that, right?
Okay.
And I certainly don't remember much about it. I remember that they had like this underground community. I remember, and I didn't know until afterwards it was Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman, right?
Right.
So when I watch this movie, I'm watching Ron Perlman, and this is like the first movie I've seen Ron Perlman in. And goddamn if he doesn't steal every single scene he's in.
You know what? Ron Perlman is one of those actors that he can't help himself.
Yeah.
That's how good he is. Whenever he's on the screen, he steals that scene. He steals that scene. I remember I wrote a review of a movie I saw him in a couple of months ago, a Bass Reeves movie.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Ron Perlman, he's in that movie. And to give him his credit, he doesn't try to steal scenes from the guy that's supposed to be the star, because that guy's the star. And Ron Perlman, he's a professional, and but he can't help himself because Ron Perlman actually fills the screen when he's on there.
Yes.
and he knows how to deliver a line, and he knows because him and Blade have some great back and forth when they're constantly fucking with each other through the whole movie. They have some great lines back and forth.
Yeah, I love I love at the end though when he says, like my daddy said right before he killed my mom, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. He's like, he also said that Blade just grabs the sword. He asks him if he can blush.
Grabs the sword. Yeah. They have the scene there inside the club, and they're looking for these mutant vampires,
the Reapers.
The Reapers, and Ron Perlman, he's hiding behind somebody, and he's got the gun and he's got the laser sight pointed at Blade's chest, and he said, "Oh, it would be so easy." And the guy with him says, "Look down." And he looks down at his nuts, and there's a red dot on there. Blade just standing across there with his gun like this. He grins at him.
Yeah.
He grins back, and he said, "I said, y'all guys having a lot of fun messing with each other. Having way too much fun messing with each other."
But and that's a nice point you make too. Is that not only does this movie show like Blade being more strategic, but it also shows like he's got like a lighter sense. He's got like a sense of humor. He's got attachments to character, right? He cares about other people. You don't see that at all in the first and the third movies.
There's 3 or 4 times in this movie he actually smiles.
Yeah.
He actually allows her to smile. We see him form an attachment with what's her name? Lisa. Nisa, yeah. The daughter of the king vampire, whatnot. And their relationship doesn't go the way that you think it's going to go, which is one thing I appreciated about this movie, that it doesn't go the way that if you've seen it for the first time, you say to yourself, okay, well, I can see where this is going. But it doesn't go that way.
Yeah.
Which to me said, okay, this movie is not afraid to be, like I said, it's not afraid to be grisly and mean and nasty and, take its characters to their logical conclusion in this story, because it's a very grim, dark story. And it's not afraid to be a grim, dark. It's not supposed to be cuddly and sweet. And
I didn't realize this, but the actress who plays Nisa, it's Lenore Varela, and she played
Uh-oh.
That was my paper shredder, just went off for no reason. Probably some still a little bit in there, it just got triggered. But she was in Arrested Development. She played Job's girlfriend, Marta. And,
okay.
Yeah, so that I was because every time I see her in Arrested Development, I'm like, she looks so familiar. And now I know why, because she was in this movie.
And she was excellent. I love how at the end you really can honestly see she does a very good job of selling the pain and anguish when she realizes what her father has become.
Yeah.
She's worshipped him her whole life and everything like that. But when she realizes, exactly how much she knew he was a monster. Right. Yeah, well, dad's a monster, but hey, nobody's perfect. But when she realized exactly what kind of a monster he is, it's like she just says, you know what? I'm willing to let all this just burn down, because this shouldn't exist anymore. If this is how we have to live, if this is what we need to do to survive, then we shouldn't survive.
Yeah. And also Kristofferson, right, coming back as Whistler, which is like one of the best characters to ever come out of any of these movies. One of the best characters made for a superhero movie that did not first appear in the comics.
And who is probably, along with Jimmy Carter and Sam Elliott, the toughest white man on the planet, because he spends a good the last half of the movie pretty much just getting his ass kicked. The last half of the it's just one character after another just beating the shit out of him.
And what I love is like nothing ever phases him.
No. He just takes it in stride and I figured that when he was turned into a vampire, he must have got some of that, I don't know, physical toughness.
Something, yeah.
I just prefer to believe that he's just a tough old white man.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well, because he's just got no time for any of the bullshit, right? Like I love the line when Blade talks about how they got to go hunting in the daylight, and Whistler's like, you better stock up on your sunscreen, Buttercup, and the guy and Chupa's like, you're about one cut hair away from hillbilly heaven, and it's just like he's. And then without missing a beat, Kristofferson just like smiles like, I love it when you talk dirty to me.
Yeah, he likes that shit. You know what? That was pretty good. And that cat he's you about one cut away from hillbilly heaven. Oh man. Oh, these people do not like each other.
No. And also like when that scene when he's with Reinhardt at the end, and Reinhardt's got him prisoner, he's handcuffed, Reinhardt's got Blade's sword and everything, and Reinhardt's trying to be all intimidating threat, and it's Ron Perlman, so of course he's a big guy, he looks scary, most people would be intimidated by him, but Kris Kristofferson, he's just like, nope, do your worst chicken shit.
Yeah, it doesn't intimidate him at all. Like you said, he's one of the best characters that was not, that's not from the comic book. But again, and okay, here's where I piss off people. The Blade character, as we see him in the movies, that is just a creation of Wesley Snipes. That's what he's got absolutely nothing to do with the Marvel Comics character,
right?
As he was presented in Tomb of Dracula.
Yes.
Who, to be honest, folks, was a relatively minor character.
Right.
He wasn't like a major character. And he was only notable because he was Black, and he was half human, half vampire. And basically,
although not the same type of half human, half vampire like he is in the movies.
No, he's not.
The only superpower he got from the vampire bite was that he's immune to vampirism.
Yeah, he's immune to the bite, right? Everything else, the whole thing with the Daywalker and everything like that, that was all Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
Which is why when people, and I get into arguments with people like this, arguments with people all the time, where they would tell me, well, if it wasn't for the Blade movies, there would be no MCU. Mm-hmm. Well, no, that's not the case, because the Blade movies were not packaged as Marvel superhero movies.
Right.
They were not sold as Marvel superhero movies. They were sold as Wesley Snipes action movies.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, most people had no idea that the character was a Marvel character. Unless you're anal like me and you sit and watch the end credits, because at the end credits they put on there that Blade was created by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. But who pays attention to end credits?
Yeah. Well, so, I think this movie was maybe not. I think it was the third one was their first, because I was thinking, I got to double check. Anyway, keep talking. I'm going to double check something on this.
Yeah. So, I mean, for people to insist that, the MCU, they wouldn't have existed, without the Blade movies. No, such is not the case. Such is not the case. Because it's so obvious, especially in this one, Blade 2, this is a movie that exists in its own world.
Yes.
In its own universe where it's humans and vampires.
Yeah.
There's no superheroes.
Right, exactly.
There's no superheroes. There's absolutely no connection to the Marvel universe at large. You don't hear Blade. Now, if Blade like name dropped Doctor Strange or something like that, then I would say, oh, okay, well, that's but no, he wouldn't. Wesley Snipes is a comic book fan, probably read Tomb of Dracula, saw this character in there and say, something, I can do something with that.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And he made this character so successful that Marvel promptly forgot about the Blade that they had in the comic books. And they said, okay, well, this is Blade from now on.
Well, that's basically what happened. That's exactly what happened, because what I was looking for is I was looking to see if they had the Marvel flipping pages logo at the beginning of this, but they don't. So yeah, that was what I was trying to think. I think in Blade Trinity they had it though. But yeah, because when the first movie came out, Marvel had at first tried to use that to bring out a new Blade miniseries, except they used the comic book Blade. So it's with the green goggles and the wooden daggers and everything, and the brown coat.
Wooden daggers, for Pete's sake. Yeah.
And so nobody, I remember as a kid, right, watching the first Blade movie and then going and buying the first issue of the Blade comic, being like, what the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
Because it was nothing like what I knew. They had another tie-in comic. It was a one-shot. It was like Crescent City Blues, but it was so tied into the Blade continuity. Like, what happened at the end of Night Stalkers? What happened at the end of his solo series? So it's like, I had no idea what the hell was going on with it. And it wasn't until a few years after that Marvel started bringing Blade back in other comic books. And they established it. And, all of a sudden, he starts looking more like Wesley Snipes. And they did a storyline where Blade was bitten by a mutated version of Morbius, and then that his Morbius's mutated blood had interacted with the vampire gene that Blade had, and it made him a Daywalker.
Oh, okay. Well, see,
they had to they come up with this kind of explanation, and just now, since then, he's just always been a Daywalker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they said, well, nobody's going to remember that anyway.
Right. Well, because thing too is like Blade in the comics. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure in the Tomb of Dracula, he never even he used the wooden daggers is what he was most known for, but he didn't use like a gun at all.
No. He used just wooden daggers.
Did he even have a sword back then?
Yeah, no. Oh, okay. He had bandolero of wooden daggers, and that's what he used. And for those of you who have never read it before and don't know anything about it, I strongly advise that you go to Comixology, who really needs to give us a sponsorship for all the good things we say about them, and find yourself Tomb of Dracula, which in my humble opinion is the finest horror comic book that was produced during the 1970s.
You know what's funny? You mentioned that. Is I got an email today from someone at Amazon, asking us if we'd be interested in promoting Amazon Music, of all things. And I'm like, you know what? We talk about Comixology more than anything else on this show. Maybe you should ask us to support Comixology instead.
No, wait a minute. Let's not be too hasty. What are they going to give us?
Well, it's just like, it's one of those, click things where if someone signs up based on our ads, then they...
Never mind. But find yourself Tomb of Dracula. That was, I am proud to say that I have a complete run of Tomb of Dracula.
And I'm pretty sure it's all collected in the Epic collections that Marvel has.
Because to me, that Tomb of Dracula, Howard the Duck, and Master of Kung Fu were like the best comics that Marvel produced in the 1970s. Yeah, those are the best.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure all of the Tomb of Dracula stuff is available I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, and it's well worth. Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, excellent stuff. And this is back in the day, folks, when creators stayed on the comic book longer than 6 or 7 issues. These guys were on the book practically for the entire run of Tomb of Dracula.
So it looks like it's not all collected, but they do have up to issue 54 collected.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how long did it go on for?
Oh, it ran for. What's the exact numbering? I'm trying to think now.
70 issues.
70 issues?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I was going to say 85. The number 85 came in my mind, but okay. Since you're looking at the screen, you'll know about it.
Yeah. In fact, Wolfman had planned to go on to 72, but then Jim Shooter retroactively cut 2 issues after the artwork had been completed for 3 issues. So then they just had to pull the plug on it.
Because I believe Gene Colan was on the book from start to finish, but I don't believe Marv Wolfman was the original writer. I believe he came on later on. No,
yeah, Marv Wolfman came on with issue 7.
Yeah, he came on later on. But after that, he was with it through the end.
Right. Yeah. So they've got it up to, so like I said, they've got it up to 54 collected in the Tomb of Dracula complete collection. So there'll probably be one more collection coming out soon then.
But getting back to the point is that I was saying that, Blade would pop up, carry on cranky, Dracula would slap him down and say, because Dracula didn't take him seriously at all. he would get into arguments, with old man Harker,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, you got to kill these thinking vamps, you can't reason with them and everything like that. So yeah, so a lot of people when the movies came out did not have an awareness of Blade as being a Marvel character.
No, the only thing is if you were watching the 90s Spider-Man animated series, you would know from that because Blade guest starred in a bunch of episodes in that. But other than that, like he had no real presence, not really a presence in the comics at the time because he had been in after Tomb of Dracula, he was pretty much sat on the shelf until they did the Night Stalkers series in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And then as part of the Midnight Suns thing. And then that when the Night Stalkers ended, then he had his own limited series, his own was supposed to be an ongoing series, but that only lasted until like issue 9 or 10, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was one of those things where it was cut early because it just Blade has never done too terribly well in comics, even since these movies came out, because they haven't been able to really. They haven't because I think part of the reason is just because the movies work so well on the action, and it's just so hard to really convey that in the same way in the comics.
And also because in the movies, Blade has more of a personality than in the comic book.
Yeah, yeah.
Blade actually has a personality, like you said so accurately. We see he has relationships and stuff like that. For all of his hardness and his cold-bloodedness, he spends 2 years looking for Whistler.
Yes, and I noticed something here I didn't notice before, but there are several scenes when like you could see that in his facial movements and all that he does have genuine affection for Whistler. And it's funny because Wesley Snipes is not the greatest actor, but he's a better actor than I think people would give him credit for.
But here's the thing. He understands the character.
Yes, yeah.
And he doesn't say a lot as Blade. If you notice when he says stuff that's to the point and there's not a lot of nuance in what Blade says. Like I love my favorite line in the movie is when he's in the tunnel and he's fighting off the Reapers and everything like that. He says, "You have absolutely no idea who you're fucking."
Yeah.
And and know what? That's Blade in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it. That's it. People do not understand who they're fucking with,
mm-hmm.
and he gets the character so that, like you said, through his body language,
mm-hmm.
through his looks, various things. He communicates an awful lot about what the character is thinking and feeling at the moment. Because when he talks, like I said, there's not a lot of, leeway here and there. Blade says exactly what he means and what he thinks,
Right.
So to me, that's more, I can imagine that he was probably sat down with the screenplay, with Goya's screenplay, and there was all these lines of dialogue, and he just said,
probably, well, like Del Toro apparently said like there was a lot of stuff in Goyer's screenplay that he didn't really like, and there was a lot of dialogue that was just terrible in it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's the thing about it. You have to understand your character. You as a writer, you and us, we both understand it. If you understand the character, that's it. You can sell the character.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Wesley Snipes does in this movie. From start to finish, he is Blade. He sells the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I said, like, even though Snipes isn't a great actor, he's a better actor than I think a lot of people would give him credit for.
Oh, yeah.
And and I think he does show that in this movie. And, like, he's not just doing the, punchy, run thing. He is, trying to convey some genuine emotions in subtle ways. And I think that and it mostly comes across pretty well.
Yeah. Listen, I would count this among his performances. Well, of course, his performance in New Jack City is like number one, but this is like his top 5 performances.
Mm-hmm.
This is like number 2 or 3, because, like I said, this is such a superior action movie. First of all, it helps that he's an outstanding martial artist, so we can see he's actually doing the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such the blend of the action, the martial arts, the science fiction, the horror elements and everything like that. It's all put together so well. And he stands at the center of it, and he realizes that he can stand at the center by not saying a lot and letting all the other characters like kind of orbit around him. Yeah. And he just provides that center for us to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why he doesn't have to say a lot, because we're always wondering what Blade is going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, okay, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? We're not thinking, well, what's he going to say next? It's, well, what's Blade going to do next?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the key to his performance, is that we want to see what he's going to do next.
You know what I think one of the reasons, now that I'm thinking why Blade comic books haven't really done so well in the attempts they've made since then, unless he's been in a supporting character, right? Like he was in Captain Britain and MI-13. He's appearing in Jason Aaron's Avengers run now, and he works in those books, but he hasn't worked in a solo series. I think it's part of the reasons because they don't have Whistler in the comics. He doesn't have anyone to interact with.
Yeah. Well, remember the Punisher kind of they gave him a sidekick eventually, Microchip.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they eventually gave him because unless you have somebody for Blade to play off of, and somebody who can verbalize the things he can't.
Yeah.
Which is what Whistler does. Whistler verbalizes the things, like when he goes to him and he says, well, you know that they're going to fuck you the first chance they get when they're talking about the alliance between the vampires and a Blade. Because for those of you who haven't seen the movie, the thrust of the plot is that you have these mutant vampires called Reapers, and they're like super vampires. Garlic doesn't affect them, silver doesn't affect them, and they have like these honking huge mandibles that open up and thingies spring out and suck your blood, but they're after humans and vampires.
Yeah.
So the king vampire sends his minions to Blade saying, listen, we need to form a truce because they're coming after us. And after they finish with us, then they're going to come after the humans. So they've decided to form this alliance. Where was I going?
There's this one scene when after they meet with the vampires and they hear Damaskinos' proposal, they go back to the base and Scud's like, what do you think? And Blade's like, well, it'll give us a chance to go deeper in a world we've never been before. And Whistler knows something's up. He's like, what do you really think? And then Blade's like, they're going to fuck us the first chance they get.
Yeah. But Whistler see, Scud can't approach him like that, like Whistler can. Whistler can say things to him. It's like Alfred.
Yes, yeah.
And Batman. Alfred is the one person that can say shit to Bruce Wayne and Batman that nobody else can say.
Yeah.
And Whistler is the same way. He can say things to him.
And also he can pick up on what Blade's thinking, right? Because when he tells Scud, oh, they'll let us go deeper into the world never again. And like Whistler knows he's putting on an act there.
Yeah.
Right? That's why he says, well, what do you really think?
Yeah. Well, what do you really, yeah. It's a nice relationship that they have. And like you said, first of all, it's hard to replicate the charisma and action of the Wesley Snipes Blade in a comic book. I mean, you just can't do it. And if you're not a writer that's not willing to see me, if I was going to write a Blade comic book, I would sit down and watch this movie about 50 more times, and then I'd sit down before I even attempted to start writing.
Yeah.
Second of all, like you said, Whistler would have to be in it.
Yes, yeah.
That's it. I mean, boom, those are the two things.
And it's so surprising they haven't done that yet in the comic books. Because, you got Harley Quinn, who debuted in the animated series. They brought her in the comic books. Phil Coulson debuted in the MCU, brought him into the comic books. I don't know why they haven't done it with a lot of the characters from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They got comic book counterparts. For some reason, now we're going on what? So Whistler was in 98 was the first Blade movie, 97, 98, something like that. So we're going on over 20 years and they still haven't thought, maybe we should put Whistler in the comic books.
Who knows? Who knows how these people arrive at the decision that they make? To me and you, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It seems like a no-brainer, but what can I say?
But anyway, any other things to mention? Oh, I did want to mention that I did like the little nod to the comic books here, where he pulls out the daggers and he starts fighting with a pair of daggers in the beginning.
Yeah. That's a good touch. I like the little touch where, it comes off as a little bit too, what's the phrase I'm looking for? I'm trying to think of where Blade is going for the final fight and everything like that, and Whistle throws him the
Oh
sunglasses.
yeah.
I mean,
that's such an action movie moment.
who wears sunglasses to a fight? But listen, I don't went with everything in this damn movie so far, so why wouldn't I go along with that?
You know what else too I like is the handguns he has, how they got like these blades on the end too.
Yeah.
Which they don't really seem to use too much, but I would have liked to see a scene where like, some vampires get in too close and he just swipes them and cuts their throat like that.
And swipes them and cuts them with the name. Those guns they have that great action sequence in the beginning where he'd fight with the guys that's on the motorcycle.
Yes, yeah.
And he's running through the building and he's shooting them with the silver bullets and they're just disintegrating. Del Toro is a fantastic action director.
Oh my God. And he seamlessly, because there's a lot of CGI used in these action sequences, but he seamlessly mixes CGI with wire work. And it works really like that fight scene in when Assad and Nisa come to meet him, right? And they get in the fight. And Del Toro does a smart thing because he knows the CGI is not advanced to fool people. So he sets it against these bright floodlights. So it looks like just two silhouettes jumping around.
Yeah. And like you said, very smart of him to do that because that way he can disguise the CGI.
Yeah. Perfect. And even still, like he even said in the commentary, he said that CGI, that one of the moments at the end of the CGI scene, he says it always makes him cringe because he can see the CGI in it. Even against that backdrop, he can still see it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, well, of course he can see it, but as long as he doesn't tell anybody.
You know what else I think was really cool as I was watching this is I think this is the first superhero movie that had characters move like they would in a comic book. Right? Like in that first scene when Assad and Nisa are infiltrating the warehouse and they're like flipping around in the rafters and everything like that. You never really saw that in a live action superhero movie before this.
There's a lot of comic book stuff in this movie. And, like I said before, I mean, with the scene where we first, see the blood pack, if you freeze a lot of these scenes in here, that's what they look like. They do look like panels in a comic book. Together. Yeah, a lot of them look like panels in a comic book.
Well, that was Del Toro's intention. Like he said he wanted this movie to be like a fusion of anime and American comic books. And I think he does a really good job in like mixing those two worlds together.
He pulled it off in spectacular fashion. Like I said, I don't consider a whole lot of action movies to be perfect action movies, but yeah, Blade 2 comes as close to being a perfect action movie. Like I said, I just love the mix of everything that's thrown in here. And it's a movie where you really feel like there's emotional stakes that's in this movie for these characters. Like I said, I watched it last night. I hadn't seen it in a while. And I was on the edge of my seat. I still was on the edge of my seat. I said, wow, because, everybody's double crossing each other. Everybody's got shifting loyalties. You never know which way. Matter of fact, it's been so long since I had forgotten that what's his name was actually working for the vampires. So I said, oh shit.
Yeah,
that's right. He was working for the vampire guy, So yeah, this is an outstanding movie.
Yeah,
really.
And also interesting thing about Nomak, right? Played by Luke Goss, the head of the lead Reaper, the carrier, is that character was actually originally supposed to be Morbius in the first drafts.
No fooling.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Morbius, and then Marvel said like, I think we'd rather save Morbius for his own franchise. So then they rewrote it and they changed it to Reapers and changed him to Nomak.
Now, if it had been Morbius, we could have said, okay, this is an MCU movie because we got another character from the MCU in there, Yeah. But for me, this, what? Blade to me is like the X-Men. As you know, I've always said many times in the past that I like the movie X-Men because I think that whole concept works a lot better when it's just humans and X-Men and not 10,000 other superheroes running around. I like Blade because I think that concept works much better when it's just humans and vampires. And you don't have a whole bunch of other super characters getting all up in the mix and everything like that. But apparently I'm in the minority, excuse me, the minority because, they are bringing Blade back, played by what's his name, Marshala Ali.
Marshala, yeah, he's going to be starring in a new Blade movie, which has got one of the writers from the Watchmen TV series is going to be working on. Is going to be
right, yeah.
And Jared Leto had said recently that there's a very good chance that Morbius and Blade could cross over at some point.
Right.
So we might actually get to see a Blade versus Morbius fight in live action.
Yeah. So apparently they all want to bring him into the MCU. And but like I said, I I'm gonna stand by my word. I've trusted what they've done so far, so I'm gonna wait and see how it turns out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it turns out.
Strangely enough, I'm not completely sold on Marshala Ali.
Oh, really?
Blade. You know what? I really wish they had just brought Wesley Snipes back. I really do.
Yeah, they could have too, because he's I don't know. I like the choice of Mahershala Ali, but we'll have to. It'll be interesting to watch because I did like him in. I liked him a lot in Luke Cage, and I liked him a lot in House of Cards. So I'm interested to see what he'll do with it.
Oh yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like him as an actor. Mm-hmm. I just wish that they had. And my understanding was that Wesley Snipes had went to them and had pitched the concept where, it was the movie would be about Blade and his daughter.
Well, I think that came from the comic book, because there was a comic book. Again, I don't know where this idea originated from, but there was a comic book, a Blade comic book in development that would have had his daughter coming in, and he would be like mentoring her, and she would be like the new Blade. And it was his daughter was Fallon Gray was her name.
Blade would be Whistler,
right?
And his daughter would be the new Blade.
Yes, that was the pitch behind the comic book. I'm looking through see. Now this was back in 2015. This was first coming out there, and it would have been written by Tim Seeley, who wrote the Death of Wolverine. And then apparently that was also tying into rumors at the same time about Snipes meeting with Marvel. And because this is around the time, I don't know if this is when Marvel got the rights back to Blade or what, but Wesley Snipes was meeting a lot with Marvel at the time. And then you had this comic book that was supposed to be coming out, but both of them ended up falling through. The comic never materialized. I think they only got as far as like some character sketches, and that was it.
Because Wesley Snipes also wanted to do Black Panther.
Yes, that was his. In fact, if you read interviews back from the time, he was planning to do Black Panther after he did Blade.
That was his dream project. As a matter of fact, he did Blade primarily to get the clout so that he could get Black Panther.
Exactly, yeah. And then I think at one point, because they were talking about no, that was because Tim Story wanted to. If his third Fantastic Four movie would have happened, he was going to introduce the Black Panther in that. But I think he wanted Jimon Hanso to play him. If I'm correctly.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Good choice.
Well, I mean, he did the voice in Black Panther's the animated series that Reginald Hudlin did.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So yeah, here's the images. So if you're on YouTube, you can see this as well, and you'll be able to see it as well, Derek. I'm going to show the designs that were done for the Fallon Gray character, who was going to be Blade's daughter. So this was these are some of the character concepts and designs they did. This was like this is like an advertisement they had done for it. And these are like some concepts they did for Blade as well, giving him like a larger sword and like bringing back some of the older fashion. And this artwork was by Logan Faber was the artist who was doing this.
Go back down a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
No, there's something I wanted to. There's something that I wanted to point out. Okay, does see Blade right there?
Yeah.
That's the exact colors that he wore in the comic book.
Yeah, the one on the far right here. So that was
Dracula.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it right there. Except it switched around. The jacket was green and the pants were brown.
Was it?
If I remember right, I think it might be, but it's the colors. I know
right. Yeah, it is definitely the colors.
Yeah, those are definitely the colors from the Tomb of Dracula version.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. So that's cool. I like that.
So yeah, that would have been cool to see. This was in. So yeah, this article is from. I don't think it's dated. Yeah, I'm not seeing a date, but the other one I found was back in 2015. So this is something that was supposed to happen, but it never. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know how it fell through. If anyone watching or listening to this knows why, feel free to drop us a line and let us know. But yeah, that was a proposed way to bring Blade back into the fold. I'm not sure if this was before or after he started appearing in the Captain Britain and MI13 series, but that Blade, or I know it was obviously way before he started appearing in Jason Aaron's. Oh, it might have also been around this time. I think he was appearing in the Mighty Avengers title that Al Ewing, if I'm not mistaken, was doing. And I think maybe it was just like, the character was being used other places, and so that's why this proposal didn't actually materialize.
And since we are talking about, we're wrapping this up, I presume, but since we're talking about the other incarnations of Blade or whatnot, there was a Blade TV series.
Yes, Blade the series starring on Spike TV.
Huh?
Spike TV.
Right, it was Spike TV then. I thought it was TNT, but yeah, you're right. TNT came later with Spike TV. It was with the rapper Sticky Fingers.
Yeah.
As Blade, and it was terrible.
I actually liked it. I liked it. I didn't have a problem with it. It wasn't as good. Well, it was better than Blade Trinity, and it had some good stuff in it. Yeah, Kirk Jones, Sticky Fingers played the character. He was okay, but yeah, he never quite found a groove with it. But I did like a lot of the supporting cast, especially.
Well, the supporting cast was the stars. Blade was the supporting character.
Yeah, Shen, his new weaponsmith, played by Nelson Lee. He was a character I really enjoyed on that show.
Yeah, Blade. This was a series where Blade was because the whole premise of the series that it was a police officer that was acting as his spy. In the the vampire clans, and he sent her in there to infiltrate, and so she was the character that we actually followed.
Yeah,
it wasn't which is why I said it was terrible, because I'm silly that way. I think if you call the series Blade, then I should see Blade doing all of this stuff and not these other characters. But that's just me. But it is worth looking for if you've never seen it before, because it goes more into like the vampire world, and how these clans run things, and the hierarchy of vampire royalty and all that. Kind of stuff. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you're not going to get the high octane action.
You also get Richard Roundtree, isn't it too? He appears as Blade's father.
Yeah.
And Larry Poindexter, who would later, oh no, maybe not. No, I was thinking of something different there. Yeah, I enjoyed it enough. It had Randy Quaid was in it as well. He had a brief part in it, and it was Jeff Johns was one of the writers on the show as well. And there were attempts to they brought in some more characters from the comics. Like they dealt a little bit. If you've read the Blade comic books, you may have known that he had had a past with some vampire like gangsters, and this had some of those characters appear. Like Stephen Razor was one of them, and I can't remember the other one.
Okay.
They had also hinted at Moon Knight coming in, and because they had mentioned Mark Spector in one episode, because when I think it's when what's her name is learning about Krista is going to learn more about the vampire world. She meets with this professor who had known Whistler and everything, and tells her about Blade's backstory. And there's some quip made about werewolves. He says, no, werewolf that's the specialty of my my colleague Mark Spector, or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And apparently Jeff Johns had said, like, if they had done a season 2, they would have tried to introduce Moon Knight.
Okay.
So I enjoyed it enough. It's, it's definitely not the same production values that you get in like Blade 2, but I think, writing wise, and Kirk Jones, he does the best he can, but he's not as good as Wesley Snipes. But overall, I think it's entertaining enough. It was a worthy effort, and I think it's worth a watch, I'd say.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. I mean, don't listen to me when I said it was terrible. It was terrible in the sense that I just didn't appreciate Blade not being the main character.
Right.
But if you at all, for those of you watching and listening to this, if you're at all interested, by all means, check it out. Seek it out, check it out. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to the end of our episode on Blade 2 and the end of our Black Superhero Month. Although there's a postscript to this, because we appeared about last month. We did an interview with the women over at Pop DNA podcast, and they're doing a special this month on Black Panther. So they've had 2 episodes out already, and their last episode, I believe, is going to be coming out this weekend for us. So that's like that'll be like Saturday the 20th. But by the time you guys listen to this, because we're coming out after it, it'll probably already be available. So Pop DNA podcast, check that out. We had a great time, talking with the women there, and they were great interviewers, and just listen to their podcast in general. They got some really great insights into a lot of different pop culture stuff.
Yeah, I've been listening to some of their episodes, and they're really good, and they have a lot of fun.
Yes, they do.
Which is what I love listening to podcasts where people are obviously having fun doing it, and their podcast is a lot of fun, indeed.
Okay, so I picked Blade 2. That means we're tossing it back to you for returning to our regularly scheduled program. Keeping us in suspense.
No, I just had to.
I know.
My allergies have been acting up today. Okay, I've been meaning to watch this movie for the longest time, and I keep putting it off and keep putting it off. But I figured that if I put it on the docket for us to do next week, that will force me to sit down and watch it. And also, this is my way to make up for making you watch.
Steal.
So my pick for next week is the animated movie Batman Ninja.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to talk about then.
Well, all right. I figured that, you know what, it's about time for us to start digging into the wealth of stuff that's on HBO Max.
Yeah.
And I was looking, last night or the night before? I was looking for something else, and I saw Batman Ninja was on there. And I said, yeah, you know what? I keep saying I'm going to watch this. Damn it. Now I'm going to watch it. Now I have to watch it because we're going to do it next week.
Yeah. I watched it before, and I've seen it with, because we got it from the rental store here in Japan. So I watched it with the original Japanese language. But now I think I'm going to go and watch it on HBO Max with the English dub.
Okay.
Kind of see how the two compare. That'll be fun. So join us next week when we're talking Batman Ninja. Until then, superherocinephiles.com is our website. You can support the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever you get the show. Leave us some comments, leave us some reviews, recommend us to your friends so that we can get more people listening. And then if you Twitter and Instagram, Super Cinema Pod on both of those, and you can join our Facebook group, Superhero Cinephiles.
Okay, very good. You get better and better at this all the time. I want to extend my personal thank you for all of you who've been listening to this, these Black superhero movies. I hope that if you've never heard any of them before, or, maybe you'll be persuaded to revisit them with a new light. But in any case, thank you very much. I appreciate you allowing me to hijack this month.
Anytime. Although, I think you might have to apologize for Steel a few more times, though.
And also, let me tell some of y'all out there, some of y'all, my so-called writer friends who sent me emails about that Steel episode. If you were as eloquent in your prose as you are in those emails, tell more books. Oh, now all of a sudden you know big words. So, okay. Okay.
All right. Okay, well, that does it for us. Thanks for watching. Stay warm out there because, we got these blizzards hitting everywhere, apparently.
Yeah.
So stay warm, stay safe. Try to stay
safe.
indoors as much as possible. And we will talk to you next week when we talk about Batman Ninja.
Okay, good night. God bless.
Thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com and remember to subscribe to watch more of our videos.